Hey YouTube, what's up? This is the Duel Network coming at you with a new type of video. This is going to be our first deck profile. We're doing it over Noble Knights. I recently won a locals tournament at Alpha Omega Gaming in Chesterfield, so we're going to see how this goes. Please leave your comments. Remember to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Any inputs necessary. As you can see, we started a new channel not too long ago, so feel free to open up to what you actually think about it. We're not going to be offended or anything, so we're going to go from the extra deck to the main deck to the side deck. So let's start with the extra deck. Alright, for the extra deck, there are 15 cards in here, 2 of which are not here. I do not have Evilswarm Exciton Knight or Castel. They are both in the mail on the way here, provided by Troll and Toad. If you ever need Yu-Gi-Oh needs materials, I would recommend them. They have extremely good prices and a huge selection. So let's get started on this. First you have Bujinki Amaterasu. He's a good card to have if you like to run Lady of the Lake. However, I do not run Lady of the Lake, so he's kind of obsolete in my deck at this point. I don't really run him anymore. I'm just using him for video purposes. So 2 Sacred Noble Knights. These are probably your bread and butter of your extra deck of the Noble Knight cards, just because they literally can plow over any monster that you that is in your way, like especially constructs or dark laws, Ankies, anything that is higher attack than this without an equip card on it, but you could still just it's not even a problem. The pop and destroy is really good. 2 Artigus Kings. These cards are also bread and butter. I would say it's the second most important though, just because it eliminates their entire back row if you have 5 equip cards, so you can destroy 1 spell trap for every equip card. It doesn't have to be face down or face up, either way. If it's a spell or trap, you can pop it, so works really good on field spells and just like, I feel like trap cards. 1 Hero Champion, you can run Gandiva. I don't know if any of you have heard of Gandiva, but I don't know, this just works a lot better in my deck. I've never really been worried about rank 4 XYZs. You can get over them pretty easily. But yeah, if you see an OTK opportunity, I would definitely recommend picking this card up. Maybe an instant 4,000 damage. It's kind of given. Number 101 Honor Arc. Works really well for special summon monsters. That's kind of my Gandiva right there, actually. It's kind of a tech, Ragnazero. I've had a lot of fun with this card. It's during either player's turn, and I found a lot of decks nowadays are searching, like namely more so Constellar and Satellar Knights. Fire Formation I've seen a couple times, but it gives 100 boost. It's not much, but it's a free destruction of a monster because it is adjusting that attack. So he's very good, and if you activate its effect and destroy a monster, you get the draw power off of it. So that's really beneficial. Number 80 Rhapsody. I actually was talked into getting this card at the card shop. It actually works pretty well. He's kind of a bummer to get out because he does require 2 level 4s, and you can do a lot more with 2 level 4s than just get like a 0 attack 1200 defense card. But you can banish 2 cards out of your opponent's graveyard, and you can equip it to your card and gain 1200 more attack. So I use him really, really late game against like cards that maybe a hero deck. I don't know. Utopic Future. He recently came out in World Superstars. He is fantastic in this deck because all of them, with the exception of the Sacred Noble Knight, are ranked 4s. So he's pretty easy to get out, and he is a pain in the ass to get over. Let me tell you. He will literally steal games out of people. Comics Hero King Arthur. This is kind of like my own personal card because I can't run a Zenmaines. I absolutely love Zenmaines. I'm one of those people. So he kind of works the same way. If you're to be destroyed, you can detach and it'll gain 500 attack and it'll inflict 500 to your opponent. So it's kind of works really well. I mean, it's good late game, like get your opponent's life points down so they're kind of stressing a little bit. And it gets to 3,400 attack, which is not bad. And part of my English, I might butcher this, but Bujinki Tikusomi. He works well in this deck if you have a brick. He has pretty big bodies, 2,300 defense, so I mean, if you are in dire need of draw power, he's the way to go. But That is the extra deck for you. Remember also to get Castle and Evic Swarm Exciton. Those cards are both just OP. So we're going to move to the main deck. Right now, I have 2 Merlin. I've ran 3. I didn't like it. I feel like it clogs my deck up a lot more than it should. So with all the amount of Rhoda and searching this deck already does, I don't really think that you need 3 Merlin. I mean, people might give me, like I said, leave me your comments, but people might give me crap for only running 2, but it's worked pretty well, so I don't know. I don't really use his graveyard effect very much. I just tribute him to get out either Madrad or Boars, but I run 3 Madrad in this deck. That's definitely a given. This is definitely the key card to get any of your XYZs out, and he's a great card to dump like your equip cards to the graveyard, because the play is equipped a re-equipable to Madrad and then special Boars, and then re-equip that to Boars, and then send all of your equip spells to the graveyard, and then go right into a rank 5. So he is definitely at a level 3, or you should definitely run 3 of him. This is another one you might guys give me crap for. Triple Boars. I find Boars is extremely useful, especially in this format. I don't know why, but he gets to your cards to the graveyard really early in the game, which allows you to slim your deck out so you can get those necessary cards and get the duplicate equip spells out of the way. So he works pretty well. 2 Gwenfars. Most people only run 1. I like to run 2 just because you can send her to the graveyard early game with Boar's effect, and then you can still have one that you can draw. So, I mean, it kind of works, and you can control 2 of them at the same time, so they work really well. He works really well equipped to Boars, because with Boar's effect, he will turn dark. Same with Madrad, and I don't know, it's just good. Cards that I run 1 of, Honest, for dropping bombs on people like game enders. I don't know. If you need to save a really important card that you're trying to get a playoff with, Honest is definitely the best play. Galen for the rank 4s. Brothers for the rank 4s and the draw power. You can keep recycling your cards with Brothers, because once per turn, if you have 3 Noble Knight or Noble Arms cards in your deck, or in your graveyard, you can shuffle them back into your deck and draw a card. So he's a good late gamer. And 1 Dristan. Dristan is a good spot removal card, especially if you have to get over something while you have Madrad on the field. Instead of going into a rank 5 with Madrad and Boars, you can go into a rank 4 with Madrad and Dristan and have spot removal, so that works pretty well. But those are all of the monsters I have in this deck. I'm going to go on to the spell cards really quick. So starting with the equip cards, 2 Gallatin. Gallatin is a good card to pull off plays with because it is re-equipable. However, I try to avoid it when I summon my King or my Sacred Noble Knight, because it does decrease your attack after a certain amount of turns. Like, you can go through 5 turns and break even, but any longer than that, you're just going to be hurting yourself. So I'm not a big fan of this, but it is necessary. So bread and butter of equip cards, Double Arms Destiny. If your enemy has a full field and you only have 1 card on the field, I like to equip this card to it, drop a Dark Hole, and it acts as a Raigeki. And I'll just pass the turn in case they have a Lying Mirror Force or something. Excuse me. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most important equip spell cards you can run in this deck. It is also re-equipable too. 2 Excaliburns. This deck is absolutely useless without this card. Nowadays, I find that a lot of effects target, so we want to run 2 of these. And also, you can get this effect from the graveyard to re-overlay with it. You can overlay a Noble Knight XYZ with another Noble Knight XYZ. It's really useful because, I mean, it allows you to gain more material, and I don't know, it's a good card to have. I run 1 Caliburn and 1 Affuter. Really good card against warrior type decks. I don't necessarily run it on mine. Like, the only time I'll run it is if Noble Knight Brothers is face up defense, and I'll equip it to him, because it only decreases their attack by 500, but I mean, Noble Knight Brothers has 2400 base defense, so I mean, it works really well in that. But I usually equip this to Constellar or Satellar cards and start popping their own back row and decreasing their attack with it. And then Caliburn. Caliburn gives 500 attack and 500 life points per turn. Both of these are re-equipable. The only re-equipable cards, the only non-re-equipable cards in this deck will be Excalibur. And I don't know, that's not a huge deal because they still have a lot of equip cards, but it's just harder to get the plays off if you draw Excalibur. Pot of Duality. Most people run 2. I only run 1. This deck revolves around special summoning most of the time, so I try and be really slim on that. I kind of save this for really dire situations. Last chapter. Like I said, most people run 2. I have run 2. I only run 1 now. But I find that I pull it really early in the game, and that's a problem for me because usually early on in the game, unless you pull Boar's first turn, you're not going to need this. So I run 1 for late game purposes. I'll hang on to it. Book of Moon, it's kind of a given. Opponent tries to make a play, you can just Book of Moon, whatever they're trying to do, and it'll kind of put them at a loss for an entire turn. This is a new one that I actually added yesterday. It's called My Body's Shield. I would recommend getting this because it is a quick play. It does cost life points, only 1,500, but it can definitely save your whatever you're trying to do. When your opponent activates a spell or trap that would destroy a monster or monsters on the field, you can pay 1,500 and negate the activation and destroy it. So it's a really good card to have. It really works on Dark Holes, Raigekis, and Bottomless. It's what I prefer to use it on, but can't use it on Mirror Force though. Unfortunately, it's not during battle phase or damage step. Dark Hole, kind of a given. Runs well with Noble Arms Destiny. Acts as a Raigeki, so 2 MSTs. 2 Lances. Lance is really important along with MST. This deck falls extremely hard to back row, especially during your Giant XYZ plays. So, and when I say Giant, I really mean extremely important because once those XYZs are gone, you're kind of out of luck for this deck, unfortunately. So I like to run 2 Lances. 3 Rotas, just for search. This deck searches a lot, but if you can get those cards into your hand faster, like Marauder Boars, or maybe even Brothers, special both of them at the same time, it works really well. Those are all the spell cards, so on to traps. 1 compulsory. Obviously, I think everyone should run a compulsory. It's a great card to have. It literally just stops any progress that your opponent made. Ring of Destruction, also a really good card. You gain life points out the ass with this deck, so I would recommend getting one of these. Put your opponent at a loss. I like to wait till they're completely set up on an XYZ or a Fusion Summon play to use this, but it works really well, so I like that. Mirror Force, given it's obviously given. Yugi's been running it since the series came out. I mean, it's a fantastic card. Some Necros players will try and set up a whole field on you and attack you at once, so it works pretty well. Same with Heroes. Bottomless, it's pretty obvious card too. 1 Call of the Haunted because you have your last chapter, and I feel like Call of the Haunted, it kind of slows your deck down a little bit because if this were to be destroyed, the monster's got to go with it. So it's kind of a hand-in-hand thing. Don't really like it that much. And finally, we have Vanities for those really annoying Burning Abyss players or those really annoying Heroes players, but it's whatever. So that is the main deck and the extra deck. We are going to go on to the side deck. I kind of threw this together just off the top of my head, what I was seeing. I saw a lot of Burning Abyss, a lot of Heroes, a lot of Blackwing. So these are just my own personal taste cards, but feel free to suggest or modify these in any way you want. So for the extra deck, or the side deck, we have an Upstart. Upstart, always good for draw power, never fails. This is a card that came out in Premium Gold, Chain Disappearance. I find this card extremely useful because when a monster with 1,000 or less attack is summoned, banish that monster with 1,000 less attack. Your opponent banishes all cards with the same name as that from their hand and deck. I've literally stolen games with this card. namely Elemental Hero Shadow Mist and namely Dante Burning Abyss. It will destroy their deck. Period. There's nothing you can do to come back from it. Run 2 of them, you'll pull it really early game, and they will not have an opportunity to get anything, especially those Dark Law plays, because those are devastating. Solemn Warning, great card, does cost a lot of life points, but it is a counter, so it's also good to have. Soul Drain, great card to have to remove those graveyard effects. Like I said, this does cost 1,000 life points, but you gain 500 per turn with Caliburn, so you're never really at a loss with this deck in life points, but it just depends how you run it. I've made this deck so you can counter traps. Royal Decree, you can take some of your trap cards out of your main deck and throw those in there and substitute for some of the side deck cards. Works really well because, like I said, this deck falls hard to traps, so Royal Decree is always a safe way to go if you know that you're playing a heavy card. Like Satellar's and Constellars both run a lot of traps, so that's always good. So do Blackwings, but side deck of Call of the Haunted. Like I said, 1 it seems like it slows my deck down. I'll have 2 just in case, but I don't know. It's just kind of a filler card at this point. Constellar Belt. Constellar Belt, I never really thought I needed it, but it turns out Light Imprisoning Mirrors will like wreck this deck in the ass. So we like to run 1 Constellar Belt because it prevents the negation of your monsters. So that's great. Side deck of Kaiser. This card will take games from people as well. If you can get really well set up with your monsters early game, then drop a Kaiser. You can't get around your 1 card. I mean, it works really well too. Side deck of Last Chapter. Like I said, we already have 1 in the main deck. If you find yourself really behind on draws or your opponent's just wrecking you, then I mean it's a good card to have. 1 Barrow from DD. It goes in hand with Defissure. I like these cards for Burning Abyss, Heroes, anything that sends a lot of monsters to the graveyard, especially zombie decks, because it will just wreck their deck. Lightsworns, this will kill Lightsworn decks, and you have to have a way to recycle your banished monsters, so I run a Burial from DD in my side deck, so it works pretty well. I've never actually needed to use it, but I've YGO Pro'd a lot with it, so. And then 2 Flying Seas. This card literally wrecks people. It's really underestimated, I think. Prevents XYZs, so I beat some kid that had Satellar Knights just because he wasn't able to do anything. You can't bottomless it, you can't prevent it. It only has 700 attack and defense, so unless they're going to drop a Dark Hole and clear their entire field, I mean, it literally will shut people down, so I like to side deck that, especially for Burning Abyss decks too. Burning Abyss decks have a major problem with this card, so yep, that is the deck profile. That is the very first deck profile we have done. Hope you guys liked it. Leave your comments. Like I said, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you have something to say about it. Anything is preferred, better than no feedback at all, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe, and see you guys.